Your future is calling. Are you listening? On this episode of Be Unmessable with the podcast, I am in conversation with futurist Michael Shaun Conway, who shares how interviewing your future self can completely transform your life. When? Today. Forget vision boards. This is vision embodied.
Hey there. Welcome to Be Unmessable with the podcast. I'm your host, Josselyne Herman-Saccio, and today my guest is Michael Shaun Conway. His purpose in life is to unleash greatness to bring about a thriving future. His mission is to empower and accelerate the redesign of our failing systems to create an anti-fragile, anti-rival world, one that works for all. Isn't that beautiful? To this end, he has created the field of generative futurism, which simply said, we'll talk more about it with him, but simply said, it's the capacity to see and realize futures. He's an award-winning filmmaker. He directed the award-winning documentary, We Rise Up, a culture-shifting film featuring key global leaders. We Rise Up asks a fundamental question: what is success for humanity? So we're going to get into it. Let's welcome Michael.
Hello, Josselyne. It's really great to see you today.
It's good to see you too. It's good to see you. So first of all, I mean, I could just ask you generically, like, how did you end up doing what you're doing? But what you're doing is so new and innovative. I don't know how you'd answer that question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. How'd you end up doing what you're doing?
It's like, I mean, isn't that the way the universe works? That you get the education you need to do the thing you're going to do, and that you couldn't anticipate as you're going on along the line that any of the things you were doing would add up, and then in the end you're like, wow, it all adds up. That's crazy. Which may say something a little bit about the nature of the universe, actually. And that, maybe for us to surrender a little bit in the process of becoming who we're becoming, and understand that things are happening that do add up. I think most of us who have any kind of success in any area of our life kind of have to look back and say, wow, there's some improbable things that happened for me to be where I'm at. So that's
good, bad, and ugly.
True.
I would say the good, bad, and ugly that happened, right? At the time, it doesn't seem maybe useful, but it definitely builds the blocks, right? So talk to us about, generative futurism, which I in the introduction, I said, we'll dive more into it.
Yeah.
Talk about that so people can get like the world of it.
Yeah. So there's a point in my work where I started being very interested in how to get people to do things. Like, how do you get them actually take action? You can get people to talk about things and think things through. And one of the things I notice is that we tend to today be very goal oriented. Like, we're going to do this, we're going to hit this metric or this KPI. But that doesn't bring along all the human components. And it also tends to be a bit of a win-lose scenario. So I either achieve the goal, I don't achieve the goal. So, for example, I could have a goal of winning the 100-meter race at the Olympics. That could be a goal, and either I'm going to win or I'm not going to win. I'm going to go to the Olympics or I'm not going to go to the Olympics. And so what happens is that if we set goals, we actually end up disrupted at some point, except for the really tiny percent of people that achieve really great goals. So I thought, well, what's more powerful? I started thinking about, well, if you had the context of I'm going to be the most fit physical specimen my body could ever be, and I'm going to be able to express myself physically, and no matter what the challenges are. Now, if that was a future I'm living into, that was a goal or a space, now there's no win-lose. There's just continuing to work towards that thing, or continuing to have that thing show up in your life. And at the time, we were doing a lot of work with companies, and they kept asking me, because we were doing leadership work, how do we get people to take any of these changes on? Like, you get all these great information and we keep bathing them in all these good ideas, but they don't do anything with them. I said, well, because they have to have a future. And so then we started talking about what kind of future, and the future was one that you generated, something that you created a vision for, that you were heavily invested in. Like, it would make a big impact on your life, your performance, your family. And so that started happening in businesses. And then we turned it around on the business and said, well, what if the business had a future like that? What if we'd made a 5 or 10-year future for the whole business? And then we started unleashing the kind of these crazy ideas on the world. We did this process called future searching. And after that point, I began to realize that we live along a continuum of time. We don't just live now. In fact, our brain is kind of smeared out between expecting what's going to happen next and what just happened. And so the phenomenologists call this protension and retention. So I retain part of the present moment and I project forward in the moment. So we're kind of these widely bounded beings of time anyway. Why not push that to the extreme? Why not have our being be larger than this present moment, including some amazing future that you're heavily invested to, and also including a past that works for you, like a past that actually has you be able to be, as you like to say, unmessable with, or unstoppable, or just that you've got that resilience and fortitude that's so important for us to have right now, especially right now, because life is so disrupted in these days.
It's truthfully is. But what I hear you saying, tell me if I'm off or not, is that, the future you're talking about is beyond the temporality that we typically relate to as like a past, present, future linear system of time, which is a made up system. We've just been living in it for so long that we don't question it, right? Because there was a time when time was cyclical, or, people relate to time differently. But when you say you're not only living now, my first reaction is, well, yeah, you are. You're only ever living now. I mean, there's no time that you're not now,
That's right.
even, what. So talk a little bit about what you mean by
Yeah.
that, because it definitely caused some dissonance in my
Yeah,
brain.
great. That's a really great point, because yes, technically when people say to be here now, it's like, well, try being any other time,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Good luck. May the force be with you. Let me know how it
Yeah.
goes.
We are in the vicinity of the instant now. Our human brains don't act fast enough for actually just to be at the instant of now, but we're somewhere between half and 3 seconds behind the instant now, like where our processing and we kind of apprehend the world is. But in that now, we also have a sense of the past. We have artifacts of the past, whether it be, pictures of ourselves as a child, or literally physical objects of the past. We have artifacts of the past, like old brick walls. I didn't build that wall. It's been around for a while. So we know that there is a past, and then there's a relationship to that past. And I call that our ever-present past.
Mm-hmm.
When we are relating to the past in the present moment, we're relating to a kind of past that's really what we're holding for the past. So, 10 million things have happened to you. You remember on average, 75 or more, or somewhere in that range, important events of your life. You kind of hold them as things that made Josselyne Josselyne. Well, that is your ever-present past. And the crazy thing is, you can change that and curate that. You can remember different things. You can remember the things that happened in the past differently. So our past, while our who we are is not a result of our past, who we are includes our ever-present past, is what we'd say. And then likewise for the future. If you have an expectation about the future that's negative, oh, it's raining outside, I'm going to get wet on the way from home. Now you have a relationship with getting wet on the way home. That's just the future that you have. If you have, I love dancing in the rain as your future that you're living to, then now you're going to be excited to leave. So if you take that in a large perspective, we always have a future we're living into. And you find our, people who like to complain a lot are expecting things to complain about. And people that are kind of on the sunny side of life are expecting things to turn out well. Well, the future hasn't happened. And if the future has a really large impact on our experience of life, then maybe we should be responsible for what's in our ever-present future as well. So ultimately, what I'm trying to get people to do is kind of curate, if you will, their past, their experience about their ever-present past, and then generate or create a future that has them wake up and go, oh, wow, I get to do this today. My life is about this today. I get to see that person today. My wife is and I are going to have this talk today. And that, not saying that's like a magic chemical in your brain, but if that's the way that you're living as if life is going to turn out in some special way, then you tend to have the experience of that as you go along. You tend to look for the experience of that. You use your cognitive bias to find all the evidence that you're right. And it seems like maybe primarily one of the best ways to get your hands on your own brain and actually have it, produce some kind of experience of now, which it's doing all the time, that you like and want. And I
Yeah,
think
and
that's important for us human beings.
I think so, especially now, but who knows, even maybe not now, but this is all there is now. So we'll talk
Yeah.
about now. So, also what I hear you saying, which correlates to the work that I do with people, is about crafting a vision that
Mm.
creates a lens
Mhm.
for you to view your life through. And your
That's
life
right.
is, whatever your life is, whatever you call your life. But that view of your life shapes your experience of life right now. So if you're, viewing the rain as a drag, then all
Right.
your emotions, hormone, everything correlates with dragness, whatever that is, right? And if you view the rain as refreshing, then refreshing becomes the lens. So the lens has so much impact
Yeah.
on your experience, which then has impact on what you do and don't do,
Yeah.
which then obviously impacts your results. So when you say create a vision, a future-based vision, to me, when I talk about fulfillment with people, Michael, it's not a feeling based thing like, oh, I feel fulfilled in my relate.
Mm.
It's about fulfilling a vision, which is also unfulfilled at any given moment. So I
That's right.
like what you said about the being the best version of myself, physical, whatever that whole thing was, if you're developing yourself in an athletic way, because there is no top to that mountain.
No.
And that's the space of vision, which
Yeah.
gives you something that's fulfillable and unfulfillable at every moment of now,
Yeah.
which is a whole
Absolutely.
different kind of life.
Yeah. And I think I mean, some people may be listening to that. It's like, oh, I've done that. I was going to go to medical school, or I did that. I did all these things. And uh, we'd start to relate to that like you just notice that suddenly that future thing became like a past thing all of a sudden. like
Okay.
oh, I did that. I imagined or visioned a future. No, that's an ongoing thing. And we use meditative states to do this, or I don't know, altered mental states, you might say, altered physical states as well, as far as the way we put ourselves in our body. But because the thing is that like the brain can't differentiate between fantasy and reality. So if you see a really scary movie, guess what? Your heart's going to race, you're going to sweat, you're going to have a hard time going to sleep. So likewise with our visions about the future, if we can really experience them, so go time traveling in our meditations and see them. I have a lot of our students and people I coach actually go interview their future self, see how they're dressed, what are they talking like, who's there, who's not there, like take some mentorship from your future self. And it's really kind of crazy because I've had people have real relationships with who they're becoming. Oh, she's like this, I'm not like that yet, but I can see that she's mastered this thing, but I'm on my way. And so I just want to say it's a robust envisioning of the future. It's not just a mood board, a vision
Yeah.
board and some things written down. It's actually like an ongoing experience of living in that future as a relationship. And then you're also able to then check that. Like I want to be this peak physical specimen. I put the Olympics out there. You know what? I don't want to do that. I want to coach Paralympians. Like that's a better expression for me. And so then we have this.
So it's malleable. I like that it's not etched in stone, it's
No.
etched in sand, I like to say.
Yeah. And then it arises in front of you. And a relationship like that, there's never an end to it. There's never an end to the creativity. There's never disappointment. Likewise, there may never be like the palmares, the moment you put the olive wreath on your head because you're standing on top of the podium. But instead of needing those peak moments, we begin to have these everyday experiences of, like you said, fulfillment. Like,
Yeah.
wow, I'm making progress towards that thing that I said I was becoming. I just saw it happen. Or, wow, that was something that 6 months I imagined. I've had a number of clients say to me, I can't believe what my life is like.
Yeah.
Like I imagined this a year ago, but I can't believe that it happened, because never before have I ever been able to create a life like I've done now. And so I think we're on to, and Josselyne, I think you're right at the source of this as well. We're on to something that changes the quality of lives.
Yeah.
And then I think also changes the capacity for people to have results happen, which is interesting. I'm not saying goals and results are not interesting. I think
No,
they
they're
are.
fun. I mean, you might as well have something to do while you're here on this planet in this plane, right? But
Yeah.
but at the same time, they're not it, because I mean, you know, you and I have both worked with people for decades that they accomplish that goal, and then it's the next carrot and the next
Yeah.
carrot and the next, and people are never really truly satisfied or fulfilled because they're looking for satisfaction and fulfillment at the level of a chemical reaction
Yeah.
versus the creation of fulfillment. And to, again, to, you know, beat a dead horse, so to speak, which is a horrible term, but to create a future, to create a vision, and then be taking actions to fulfill that vision, that's real fulfillment.
Mhm.
To create a goal, let's say, and then satisfy the metrics to meet that goal, that's real satisfaction, because that's about creation, not reaction.
Yeah.
And it's a different world.
Yeah, it's a different world. And I just, if I might say, when we're doing that, then we make things meaningful. Then we make
Yeah.
our action meaningful. And they have a, for us and our human story, our story of our life, they add up. Like we were talking before, like, how did you get to be a generative futurist? I don't know. I made it up, right? Like
Yeah, exactly. I made up unmessable with. There you go. So we're both in our
I
own.
made it step by step. But now, inside of the context of helping people generate futures, of helping people change their stories about their past, or just change the past, we now say, or enter into some of these special states of consciousness, I feel like I'm well used. And I
Yes.
feel like that the things that my teachers gave me is in really early in life. I was one of these kind of spiritual savant people studying really great teachers very early on. I feel like their gifts are meaningful, like the things they did with their life. And many of these people have passed on, and it's like they're not alive anymore, but the things that they did to help me to do, to
Their
just at
legacy
that
is
time,
alive.
yeah, like
Their
it's
legacy is
coming
alive.
through me. I'm giving it again. And that feeling of giving the gifts that have been given to you, it's like, gives me a chill just thinking about it, like,
Nothing better.
wow.
Yeah, there is nothing better. So let me, because this is a question I ask everybody who's on the show,
Yeah.
is, you know, can you think of a situation from your past that was difficult? Like it was a really tough circumstance you were dealing with, or something that was messing with you and could have taken you down for the count, but
Yeah.
you transcended that situation to emerge what I call unmessable with, which, just to clarify, doesn't mean being tough. It means being able to shift from that space of reaction to a space of creation and vision. What's something that comes up for you when you think about that?
Yeah, there's a couple of interesting stories. One is from my professional life. I'm going to go to like one of the most difficult personal times in my life. When oh God, I'm going to date myself. In '91, I spent about
If
half a
that's
year.
dating yourself, then I'm like a Methuselah over here. So go ahead.
In 1991, I spent a lot of time in Nepal as a Tibetan Buddhist student, a young student, and I studied with an amazing old master named Tulku Ujun Rinpoche, who is really one of the most incredible beings I've ever been with. And it sounds a little woo-woo and spiritual, and it is definitely woo-woo and spiritual. But near the end of the time I was there and I was going to head back to the States, they asked me if I wanted to take this thing called the Bodhisattva vow. And I just was like so into everything that they were doing. Like, yeah, I want to do that. You know, like Bodhisattva vow. That's somebody that vows to seek rebirth until all beings are liberated. That sounds really cool. I want to be one of those. And so it's literally a vow you take to a vow of compassion, a vow of compassionate activity, and that you're going to show up like this in life. And then, you know, if you believe in reincarnation or things like that, which I'm not sure I do, that you're just going to keep doing it. It's not like a vow for a real short time. It's like
It's
forever.
eternity. It's like
forever.
talk about future. Yes,
That's
that's
right. A
right.
long, long future. And so I was so excited about this. You know, it's kind of a culminating moment of about 6 months of really, really intense practice and amazing experiences living in Nepal. And I got back to Earth and back to Earth. Ooh, I got back to Earth. I got back to the United States,
Yes.
and I was an asshole. I think this vow happened, and I was about 3 weeks later back in the United States, and I had probably the biggest depression of my life because I was confronted constantly. The way I treated my friends, the way I treated my bosses, the way I treated the person I was dating. There was literally no point in my waking life I wasn't totally selfish. And it was frustrating and devastating because I felt like I was on the spiritual high in Nepal. I'm like, I'm the king of the world. I'm so enlightened. Oh God. I was, I was in 91. I must have been like 25.
Yeah,
And
25. That sounds about right.
yeah, so it sent me into like a journey of a couple of years that was, dealing with all those areas that I was selfish, and then getting like having to apologize and deal with messes that I made, not just in the past, like going cleaning up the past,
Mm,
but like constantly. It was so confronting. It was so terrible. And when you talk about being unmessable with, um, I knew, like in the kind of secret recesses of my brain that I could just give it all up. That I could just say, this stupid, Tibetan Buddhist stuff, like I'm gonna go and enjoy my life. I'm gonna, have a beer with my steak, whatever. And uh, I think like really just saying, hey, I'm gonna figure this out. I'm gonna stop being such an asshole. I'm gonna just like go from a like a 9 or a 10 down to 2 or 3, please. And then I'm gonna see if I can actually be compassionate. I mean, maybe not compassionate like a Buddha, just maybe about kind, like good with people, that I left them feeling that I had made more good than harm in their life as a change. And I was a real uh, like I had a lot of fun. I was very, very, had a lot of vitality. People liked to hang out with me, but over time, the ones that hung out with me for a long time didn't like it as much. And so in that process, I actually toned all that down, the kind of mania stuff down a lot, became a little bit quieter. And then, yeah, I think over the course of, I want to say 2 or 3 years, I made progress.
mm.
And the kind of culmination was meeting my wife and ending up with the career I have. I think I look at the timeline of my life, and if I'd met her even 3 months earlier than I'd met her, I wouldn't have been the kind of person that could have sustained.
Or
I
that
mean,
you would have even talked to, maybe.
maybe it's true. We were together. We celebrated our 30th year together in December. So married for
My
24 years.
husband and I are 30 years together this year too. So
So you know what I'm talking about. It's like you can't hide in a long-term relationship. You can't cover up for too long. And I think that like for me generating my future, and I would have never had that capacity to have that language, but I always had a sense that if it was something that was deeply important to me in my heart, that if I felt very, very strong about it, that even if it wasn't something I could do, like right now, that I could, if I just kept that in front of me. And I may not be the fastest person to learn something or smartest person in the room, but I would be willing to work harder than other people to achieve that. And some of those things have been very internal, quiet things, and some of them have been very career oriented things. But in the process, I look at who I am today, and people think I'm incredibly powerful. And I see myself like that same person that struggled to deal with making a vow that was too big for themselves.
mm.
And so I'm always feeling like, no, I'm just getting it figured out right now. But that's that, you talked about the mountain without a top. If you constantly are seeing what you're becoming, and you feeling like, for me, I feel like the value of me becoming isn't for me. Me becoming is for my family and for my community and ultimately for the world, because my purpose is to make this world a place that's wonderful to live, where everybody can thrive. And so I look at that and like I'm unmessable because I'm willing to do whatever it takes to be what I need to be to have those things come about. And if anybody's brave enough and kind enough to confront me with some place where I'm not getting it, then I'm like, great, let's
The
work on
next
that
gap.
thing.
The next
Nice
gap to
gap.
live into, right?
That's right.
I love it. I love it. And I know that this film that you did, We
Hmm.
Rise Up. Talk a little bit about the film, because it sounds like such an important question that you're posing in the
Yeah,
film to the leaders that you spoke to.
yeah. The premise just started with, okay, so maybe we've got this idea of success wrong. If maybe success isn't getting as much stuff as I can and grabbing as much money as I can possibly grab, Like if it's not about getting, then what could it be about? And to me in my life, it's always about giving and contribution. So the beginning of it is like, well, what would life be like if we focused our success on contribution versus consumption? And that opened up the whole world of conversations with people, because it turned out people like John Mackey at Whole Foods, or even people like Tony Robbins and stuff, thought about this a lot. Like what is success to them? I mean, if you look at somebody who's just by everybody's standard and measured really successful, and they're actually thinking about success, and you ask them about success, this is what they're worried about: is how does their success make a difference to other people? And so the movie We Rise Up is really, who do we need to be to create a sustainable life on the planet, to create a life of justice and fairness, to create a life, maybe just a human life that we'd be proud of, like, oh my goodness, our generation managed to evolve to, or create, or, deal with the things that we dealt with. And so I spent about 5 years with Alex, my wife, as a producer. Kate Maloney's a producer in that film. A lot of amazing people donated to the film and made it possible. And then we had over 150 people we interviewed for that movie.
Amazing.
Some amazing luminaries that were very generous of their time. And then the film became like it was the request for being in the film was the result of the film. Like, can you give of your time, was a thing we asked over and over. And amazing people said, yeah, I can give them my time, absolutely. And that, so in a way, it's kind of something that was made by the cloth that it's trying to share with
Yeah,
the
it's like
world.
building the ship while you're sailing it,
That's
you
right.
know?
That's right.
Yeah, beautiful.
So
Well, we'll definitely put a link to where to
yeah,
find that in the show notes for sure. And there was something you were going to offer the listeners.
yeah.
What is it that you think
Well,
would be a good?
after our talk and focusing on generative futurism, I actually have a meditation that's about generating a future. So all you have to have for the meditation is some idea of where you want to go, what you're doing. And in the meditation, you'll actually go forward in time and visit that future. And so it's a powerful meditation. It's a really wonderful tool for you to kind of use a couple of times and see where you get with it. And it's
Super
part of
cool. I
this.
can't wait to use it. Oh my gosh.
I'd be happy to have you use it. I'd love to hear what you come up with. I'm sure
I
it'll be
will
a
tell
powerful
you.
future. Yeah.
And you were going to say there was one other thing you were saying about it?
Well, it fits into this suite of things we call the holonic method, which is really how do you be in all these times and kind of work in multiple times to create yourself, your identity as somebody who has mastery over that. So, and then obviously once you have mastery over that, then you have a lot of power with who you are and what your experience of life is.
Beautiful. I can't wait to do it myself and offer it to everybody. So that's exciting. And for those of you listening, if you got value, something made a difference for you today, please share this episode with anyone in your life who you think would get value or make a difference with. And by all means, rate and review the episode, which that always helps. The algorithms, whatever those are, I don't really understand, but that's what they tell me. So thank you so much for being with us, Michael. And I look forward to continuing our conversation on another episode. But for everybody, we'll see you on the next episode of Be Unmessable with the
Yeah.
podcast.
If you're ready to stop operating on autopilot and start showing up by design intentionally every single day, then grab the 5 daily practices to being unmessable with checklist. It is simple, it's powerful, and it's designed to keep you aligned with your vision no matter what life throws at you. You're going to find the link right below this episode. And here's what Michael reminded us: fulfillment doesn't come from what you get, it comes from who you're being. So if you're ready to stop living from your circumstances and start creating your future from your vision, this next video is your next step. Watch it now.